What's up, everybody? Good old Kohl's, ticker symbol KSS, just reported earnings. So, of course, we have to talk about it. This is a significant holding for me, and I've made several videos on this company. I bought the stock last year between $6 and $9 a share. My cost basis is around $8, and I've pretty much just held my shares. I'll talk a little at the end about my positioning, what I'm doing here, what I think of risk reward. But let me first just give you the quick elevator pitch on why we would want to buy this seemingly dying company. And the first reason is Kohl still produces a lot of cash, close to $1 billion in cash from operations. They've been pretty efficient at managing their costs. Once you factor in 400 to maybe 500 million in maintenance capex for a company like this, you're still looking at, about $500 million in free cash flow. That's incredibly strong for the market cap of the business. Market cap right now is, roughly 4 times what I think the free cash flow power of the company is. Now, why don't the bottom line earnings look as strong? And that gets to the second reason why I think Kohl's is interesting. They own roughly 400 of their stores. They own almost all of their distribution centers. It's quite a lot of land, and a lot of these are in pretty desirable areas, suburbs of major cities. They bought most of these locations decades ago. They're able to take the depreciation of their property as an expense, so that lowers the bottom line number, and it reduces the carrying value of their real estate on their books. But I think it's pretty likely that the fair value of just their owned property, just their real estate, is significantly greater than their market cap. For example, several years ago, they sold a distribution center for $200 million that was on their books for only about $70 million. So the book value is possibly understating what the company could get if they just sold off all their assets, paid off all their liabilities, and was left with just a bag of cash. But in spite of the fact that the tangible book value might undersell the value of the business, the market cap is actually less than half of the tangible book. So bottom line, whether you're looking at just the asset value of Kohl's or you're looking at the cash flow of the underlying business, I think it's cheap. And when the share price was in the single digits, I thought it was a no-brainer. So that's the quick thesis. Now, let's get into the numbers for this quarter. And first, as always, nothing here is advice to buy or sell Kohl's stock. I just give you my opinion. I tell you what I'm doing with my money. And if you get value out of the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to join my Discord or grab my Google Sheets template for analyzing stocks, then consider following me on Patreon. Link to that will be down below. Now, let's get into Kohl's. While I think there's a lot of things to like, given the price that we're offered, given what we have to pay for the stock, I can't ignore the fact that this is a struggling company. Retail in general is an extremely competitive sector. They have to fight against Walmart and Amazon, not to mention, maybe the more comparable companies like Macy's and Nordstrom's. And Kohl's struggles, I think, a bit nowadays from just being viewed as old-fashioned. It's neither cool, nor is it necessarily the cheapest. They have decent value options, but they're not a discount retailer. Recently, they've been trying to recapture that identity as a place to go for value. They're investing more into proprietary brands, which are brands that either Kohl's owns or they have the exclusive license to. And these are typically brands where they have not only a higher margin, but they can offer them at a better price point. Over the past year, this has been a bright spot. This quarter, they're up 3%. That's been supporting their margin. Stuff that's doing well, it's, home decor, jewelry, and impulse. And in spite of the competition, they are showing signs of stabilization. This quarter, the top line is down 1% versus a year ago, which doesn't sound great, but that's actually their best comparable sales number in quite a while. This company has been contracting like mid-single digits, 4%, 5%. And over the past couple quarters, it's been reining that in. Margins have improved. Now, this quarter, they say the gross margin improved by over 300 basis points, but a lot of that is this tariff refund that they got. Obviously, that's a one-time benefit. And if you take that out, that's maybe about 280-ish basis points of this improvement. So margins still up slightly year over year when you adjust for that. They upped their guidance a bit for the full year. They still say top line down just slightly, and now they're saying earnings per share of a little over $2 at the midpoint. Keep in mind, though, this is including about 65 cents of benefit from that one-time tariff relief. So if you pull that out and you say, okay, earnings per share is, maybe $1.50-ish for the year, the stock doesn't look that cheap. This would then be, roughly 12 times that adjusted earnings number, which for a declining business in such a tough industry, that certainly doesn't sound like deep value. But again, a lot of the expense is depreciation. I really think you have to look at the cash flow to understand what's going on here. They're saying operating cash flow for the year likely close to $1 billion, with CapEx about $350 to $400 million. Even if you pull out the tariff relief and you take a pessimistic view of these ranges here, you're still going to get to over $400 million of normalized free cash flow. You have that difference because depreciation, you can kind of think of it as a proxy for maintenance CapEx. But depending on the asset, the real estate that you have on the books, how long it's been there, it can certainly be the case that depreciation at some points in time is going to be significantly different from maintenance CapEx. And that can cause the earnings to understate the cash generation power of the company. And over the past year, what they've mostly done with the cash that they're generating is strengthen the balance sheet. Just look at what's happened over the past 12 months. Cash on the books right now is over $800 million. A year ago, it wasn't even $200 million. Meanwhile, the debt they have on the books, right now it's about $1.3 billion. A year ago, it was about 1.6 if you add up this long-term debt plus their revolver. So they've reduced $300 million in debt while adding over $600 million in cash. This business is in a much stronger position today than it was a year ago. As they continue to buy back their debt, I think the value will only become more obvious. In this quarter, they bought back another $60-some million in debt. So year to date, they've repurchased $113 million in debt. They've done this at a discount. That means that they're buying back their debt, they're buying back their bonds for less than the holding value on their books. And actually, I think this is a good time to just stop and talk about enterprise value. Because I know I'm going to likely get some comments on this video that say something to the extent of, you're saying that the debt that Kohl's has right now is just $1.3 billion. But if I go on to whatever data provider that I want to use and I just look up what their enterprise value is, I can see that the enterprise value of Kohl's, it says, is $8 billion and the net debt is over $6 billion. That's a massive amount of debt. And if you use the enterprise value, then the company doesn't look very cheap. So first off, what is enterprise value? Well, you may have learned that it's the market cap plus the debt minus the cash. But if you take a step back, what enterprise value truly is the answer to the question, how much do I have to pay to buy the underlying business debt-free? I want to buy the earnings machine of this company, and I want to know how much I have to fork out. You can add and subtract numbers all you want, but you have to understand why you're doing it. When I look at Kohl's, if I want to buy the underlying earnings machine here, I would first have to buy up all of the equity. And the current market value of that's just the market cap. So I would have to pay the market cap for the business. Then I would have to buy it unencumbered, which means I need to pay off all of the debt. And that's $1.3 billion. Now, after that, if there's any excess cash on the books, well, I now own the company, so I can put the excess cash in my pocket. I can't just put all the cash in my pocket because the company needs cash to run. They say they'd like to keep about $700 million in cash for operating the business. You might think they need less, but I'm only going to count excess cash as cash over $700 million. So I get to put the excess money in my pocket. So in total, the net debt that I'm paying out, that's about $1.2 billion plus the market cap of, also about $2 billion. I get a little over $3 billion for enterprise value. That's how much you'd have to pay for the earnings machine. And obviously, that number is massively different than the $8 billion you're seeing here. This is ticker.com. If you're using another data provider, maybe you're seeing a different number. This is just computed algorithmically. There's no human thought going into this. So why is this number so much higher? Well, the reason is accounting rules changed back in 2018, maybe it was 2019 when it went into effect, and leases had to be capitalized. Pretty much all leases had to be capitalized on the balance sheet. Now, a lease, rent essentially for the buildings that you're using, that's an operating expense. It's part of operating the business. When you're thinking about the earnings power of the company, you're already taking into account operating expenses there. It doesn't make sense to double count operating expenses. Why does it conceptually make sense to add the present value of future leases, the present value of future operating expenses into the enterprise value of the business? In fact, maybe another question to ask yourself, or a question that you should answer if you think that, the enterprise value of Kohl's, it just is $8 billion. That's what it says on this website. That's the number I'm going to use. If that's what you think, maybe try to answer this question. The company is going to have a lot of different operating expenses in the future. They have to pay their staff. They have marketing. They have the transportation cost of the goods around to various different stores. And yes, they also have their rent. Do you think that we should take the present value of future fuel costs or the present value of future payroll and add that into the enterprise value? And if your answer is no, why would we do that? Those are just operating expenses. Then I would say, why are you adding in the present value of future rent into enterprise value? That's also just an operating expense, like all the other things I listed. The fact that leases are given different accounting treatment since 2019 doesn't change the underlying logic of what enterprise value is. So to me, again, I think of the enterprise value of Kohl's as a little over $3 billion. The reason leases appear on the balance sheet is to give investors and anyone looking at the financials a more clear picture of the business. Accounting is just the language of business. The whole point of it is to be useful and clear and helpful to investors. If accounting rules change tomorrow, like for example, if tomorrow it was just decided that R&D had to be capitalized on the balance sheet, which right now it's not, that wouldn't fundamentally change the value of companies. It would just change the reporting and some of the numbers that you're looking at. So in any case, rant over, back to Kohl's. I just figured I should put that in this video because otherwise I know I'm going to be replying to it in the comments. Bottom line is, relative to the operating earnings, relative to cash flow, the debt of Kohl's is really not that high. In fact, their leverage here is the best it's been in a while. Net debt, if you simply look at debt minus cash, $500 million, that's roughly 1 year of free cash flow. This company is nowhere close to as levered as you might think when you just look up the enterprise value. Now, also in the quarter, I should mention, they said that they are restarting share buybacks. They say they're going to buy back about $100 million of stock for the rest of the year. That's about 5% of the current market cap. That seems like a reasonable use of cash to me. I hope they do continue to buy back their debt as well, considering it's trading at a decent discount. But honestly, debt and equity both look cheap. Buying back your stock, you're effectively buying $2 of tangible book value for every $1 spent. The market may be slow to catch on, but even if the business is still declining low single digits on the top line, after another year or two of buying back debt, returning value like this, I think you'll see that reflected in the stock price. And in fact, even since I was buying about a year and a half ago, the stock's more than doubled. So as far as what I'm doing with my position today, I don't see any reason why I should sell. The company is in a much stronger position than when I was buying. Admittedly, the price is up a lot as well. And as far as the market's reaction to this report, I see that as I'm recording this, the stock is up about 2%. In the morning, it was down, I think close to 10%, and then we've had an enormous rally. So maybe some people started to look at the numbers and realize, hey, you know, it looks pretty decent. And maybe final thing before I sign off here, the short interest on Kohl's has always been fairly high. About 30 million shares are sold short. That's about 27% of the float. And while increasing short volume can certainly push a stock price down, when the short interest is high, it also can act as a tailwind when you have buying pressure. Results look decent, the financial position is stronger, buybacks are starting. That can lead to shorts covering. And that could be an additional catalyst to the stock price in the future. For me, I would never base an investment around that. A short squeeze or something dramatic like that is not part of my thesis at all. But I obviously wouldn't complain if any pressure on shorts pushed the stock price up. So with that, I think we'll end it here. Bottom line, I still think Kohl's is cheap. I don't see a reason to sell. I'm just going to hold my shares. I do have calls sold against a decent portion of my position, mostly at a $25 strike price. I think the company is worth quite a bit more than that, but it's still a low quality business. And for me, for a low quality business, I often just like to take my gains before it reaches what I think fair value is. And with that, if you got value out of the video, subscribe to the channel. If you want to join my Discord or grab my Google Sheets template, then consider following me on Patreon. Link to that will be down below. If you own Kohl's, let me know what you're doing. Let me know what you thought of the report. And of course, let me know where you agree or disagree with me down in the comments. And I hope to see you all in another video.